So, Easy Brazier says, "What do you play on live?" It's Shadow Priest. Am I looking to main swap? Not necessarily. I'm hoping to play both. I think Devastation and Shadow actually do very complementary things, which is to say, kind of opposite things in a lot of ways, and I find that very cool. Because again, Shadow relatively stationary, but has some stutter stepping available to it, and no real like displacement abilities. Meanwhile, Devastation Evoker, all displacement abilities all the time, can cast while moving. You know, right, doing all this kind of stuff. But then if I'm out of hover, right, so I've hit that off. This is 15 seconds, and I'm sitting here and I have to go like Living Flame Disintegrate. I don't have you know, I can't stutter step. I just have to channel, right? So it's an opposite way of thinking in a lot of ways. You know, Shadow has a lot of instant casts where you can actually start moving in a direction and then stop and start. And there's really not a lot of that here. Shattering Star is a good example of one. Every 15 seconds you have an instant cast. If you get your Firestorm procs from Snapfire, then that's, you know, another possibility. But there isn't a lot of it in this kit. So a lot of it comes down to proactively pushing hover when you know you're going to need it, and then making your way around and, you know, figuring out how to then get your Living Flames off and disintegrates when you need them, right? So from the movement angle, they're complementary in that sense. From a well, certainly from, you know, a range standpoint, one's 25, one's 40, so that kind of has a complementary angle as well. From a playstyle standpoint, this spec has, you know, at any given moment, like 6 or 7 buttons damage-wise at most, whereas Shadow honestly might have somewhere between like 15 and 20 off the top of my head, right? So it's a much simpler spec just off the top. So overall, like they do very different things, and I'm excited to have both. One last thing is kind of the way I see it is that Evoker has very traditional group utility. I have a knockback, I have a knock up, I have a big root, I have a big stun, I have bloodlust, I have a big group DR kind of thing, and a group movement speed buff. I have an ability where I can just like fly over to someone and heal them, right? A lot of this stuff, and a 20-second kick. So just very strong traditional utility. And then the priest has the really niche utility. You have like your Mass Dispel, Power Infusion. Sure, you have the raid buff and fort. You can remove diseases. You can shackle undead. If I didn't say Mass Dispel, you can Mass Dispel. You can mind control, mind soothe, right? So it's all very it's very niche utility. It's very sort of I call it the bag of tricks. And you'll hear me in if I'm talking more about Shadow Priest specifically, explain all that with a very sort of dismayed and sort of sad tone, because that's kind of how I feel about it. I like that, and like Leap of Faith, right, as another one. I like that those toys are there, but when I'm in a key and there's 3 enemies casting the hey, if you don't kick me, I'm gonna wipe you guys, and you're just there as a Shadow Priest like, well, I wish I could do something, have fun, guys. That just feels bad. And no amount of PI is gonna save you in that situation, right? But if you had another kick, maybe you'd be okay. This isn't a problem for organized groups, because they're gonna go into that key, they're gonna know exactly how many kicks they need, they're not gonna waste them, they're gonna know what's up. When you're me, and you're just doing random keys, and you don't really know the dungeons, and maybe it's some guy's first time tanking, and you're just there shooting the shit with the guild in Discord, you don't necessarily always have that luxury, and that's something that I find very, very sad and upsetting about Shadow's kit right now. They go, not every class in the game needs an interrupt. I technically agree with that, but why is Priest the only class that doesn't have it, right? They talk about AoE stuns. Oh, it's not going to be special if everyone has an AoE stun. Okay, but like if Priest had an AoE stun, maybe that would make up for the lack of good kick, right? It goes on and on. Like you have Vampiric Embrace, which is like, hey, it's decent off healing, but it's not reliable in any meaningful way, so you just kind of push it. And then you have this whole bag of very situational utility outside of Power Infusion. Power Infusion, very good, obviously, but it's like it's really the only thing right now, right? So from a comparison standpoint, that's sort of where the two land, the way I see it.